and welcome to the Raw Review. We are the Dudley Boys of WhatCulture. I'm Adam Wilbourn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened on last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review Raw, but also SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete. A very good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, though, joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to review Monday Night Raw, our last Raw of the year. It's our last 2-hour Raw ever, probably.
It's like they've just started to find the groove with that as well. I'll be glad to see 3 hours of this kind of electricity every week.
I did it
on Friday, I'm going to do it again. Do you remember when it used to be in December? Because it's not anymore.
No.
This was, all this did was reaffirm something I felt on the preview yesterday, which was to make me sad that this is it for a bit. Like, taped Raws and SmackDowns now. The build Saturday night's main event was pretty awesome. For it was a PLE realistically. And so was this because it had the Netflix thing to build to really effectively as well. Just a ton of stuff. It's WWE still cooking. Like, that's the reality as I see it. Like, there's still a bunch of stuff that I love. And it's almost like now having to, like, the enforced tempering of your excitement out of all this cool stuff thrown at you.
There's some all right stuff on the show, I guess. One really good segment. The wrestling was really subpar. Really, really, really subpar. In places where I didn't necessarily expect it to be neither.
Thoughts on the new Raw logo? I'm not sure if you saw Triple H actually introduce that.
Yeah, he's like dragged by the scruff of his neck. Can you do this thing out the front? I'm really busy doing my off-camera responsibilities. I love the logo. It's Raw in the sideways Netflix end. Like, it's been supplanted over the end. I was like, that's my kind of thing. That's how you do it.
The new logo alarm, by the way.
Yeah.
You heard that.
Yeah, I love the logo. The reveal was preposterous, wasn't it? By the exec producer himself.
See you enjoying it on X.
Just that face of his. I don't understand how you can praise this without first gritting your teeth and knowing who this praise is directed at.
I loved your...
He's such a smug tosser.
None of us perfect.
He needs slapping down.
I got a really weird flashback when you posted that thing. Was it The Rock he's chatting to? It's like Pando, and he says, like, I love you, or something like that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's Triple H with his... Well, they all went through interesting looks during the pandemic.
Needed a haircut and a beard shave, and The Rock looks absolutely pristine in some gorgeous location where he's probably filming something, yeah. I love you, man. It's a great time. Are you okay?
But anyway, let's get into this wicked pisser of a Raw.
And the garden. The garden's always the garden.
Garden's always a garden.
So yeah, CM Punk, well, you have the usual people arriving at Raw, and then CM Punk kicks off the show. Packed TD Garden, PP Lady Garden, more like. Crowd chant for CM Punk, and he says, whoa, careful. Some people might be a little bit mad, you chanting my name.
Me.
Points out someone wearing a sports jersey from New York. And saying, brave man to do that, basically. Takes a lot of balls to wear that in Boston. But Punk admits he's in a bit of a bad mood. He's told Seth Rollins 2 weeks ago, I don't think about you at all. But over the past 2 weeks, his mind has wandered back to Seth, put him in a bad mood, because Rollins is right. There is something going on between them. It's only a matter of time before they go at it in the ring. And he knows that no matter what, at some point, Rollins' stupid music would hit. Well, he didn't hear, actually. He's going to
Can't press the button.
No, that was fizzing watching this. He's going to tip-tout in clogs like the purple pie man of Porcupine Peak.
Well, we know what we say about alliteration, don't we? It is the work of...
There's like always one exception to the rule for me. Yeah. He also says he's going to be dressed like Liberace, and he says, well, that's not an insult. He's cool as hell. Liberace, that is. But just because Rollins wears Elton John shades doesn't make him like Elton John, and just because he grew up idolizing CM Punk and putting on a pair of wrestling boots didn't make him CM Punk either.
And I mean, folks, where's the lie?
He says, yeah, it is true. I ghosted Seth Rollins, but I'm not here to litigate the past. I'm looking forward to the future. Rollins says Punk's a bad guy. I'm not denying I'm a bad guy. He says, hey, put your hands up. Are you a bad guy? There aren't bad students, only bad teachers. Rollins is my failure. But
That's good stuff.
It's good stuff.
he's
man.
the best. He wants to try it again, though. So how about a wrestling lesson for free, Seth Rollins? No, that's
Just a full-on he's taking the line. He knew he's the best. He's a f***ing best. That line was just great on its own terms last week, wasn't it? That's why it exists. You've done it again.
He says, look, the last guy who went down this road was Drew McIntyre. Are you tougher than Drew McIntyre? There aren't enough staples in the world to put you back together when I'm done with you. Still nothing from Seth Rollins. He says, all right, here's something I know will piss you off. The whole world chanting my name. And they do. But they're not the only ones, because Seth Rollins is heard through the speakers chanting, and he's there in the crowd.
Just to interject very, very briefly, he said, everyone chanted my name when you were on TV for the 7 years I was gone. I can recall two.
It's time to play the game! Time to play the game!
I can recall two instances where this actually happened. One, I might be getting a bit mixed up. There was one when it was 2017, just like Seth Rollins is getting the big babyface push, which never really worked ever. When this is quite funny actually, if you've got a cruel sense of humor. He was doing the whole, I think he'd had a flare-up of the knee injury, and it's like right before WrestleMania 33, the timing's awful. The fans didn't care, because when he had the sit-down interview with Michael Cole in the middle of the ring, and he had the crutches on and the whole bit, I don't know if people just didn't believe him or didn't care or just hated him in that building or what, but they all chanted CM Punk as he was doing his heart-wrenching, I might not legitimately make it to WrestleMania speech. Did they chant CM Punk or AEW or AEW during Hell in a Cell 2019?
That was AEW, I think.
It
might have been Punk.
AEW.
It was always a protest chant, but it allowed Matt Jackson to tweet Dynamite starts Wednesday, or whatever, really great summing up of the sort of trends and the tones and all of the conversation at the time online.
Was there one on the Raw after Mania as well that we were at? 35.
I didn't go to that one. I went to him early.
There was a lot of Raw after WrestleMania.
Didn't miss
chants.
much.
I was thinking of the Dolph Ziggler Iron Man pay-per-view main event.
Maybe
protest just did all the usual cycling through of the protest chants because they were so bored. And then the next day there was this big sort of referendum on disrespecting the business and the wrestlers that do the business. And I was like, they were bored. They were bored by the boring match. Let them do what they want.
Two mid-carders masquerading as main eventers. People are going to get bored during that.
And Seth wasn't no Steph when it came to pushing back those Punk chants.
She was better.
She was the best at that, wasn't she?
I think they'd bothered to tell her.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe she's just had a sharper tongue. Who knows?
Yeah.
But Seth says life's about perspective. He wants to be a part of the crowd, see Punk how the rest of us see him, maybe give him a new perspective and feel differently about CM Punk. So he's going to take a good, long, hard look. Nope, even from way out here, you're still an asshole, CM Punk. Punk's overjoyed. I'm not, that Seth didn't come out with that stupid song that we all know the lyrics to, obviously. But he's in the right spot. Should be in the audience with the fans, not in this bloody ring. Seth's like, well, it doesn't embarrass me. I'm a fan. I always will be. I love this place. When you abandoned this place, I put it on my back and made it stronger than it's ever been.
That's a lie.
If anyone
You just happened to work for a brand that was in and of itself a draw despite itself. You take Seth, the Shield were great. You take Seth Rollins out of WWE for all the years he was there, not one thing really matters or is different.
I've really enjoyed Seth Rollins throughout this entire Punk thing.
Rejected
But
twice.
What's funny, what I'm saying is that I'm going to, isolate him for praise here, as I have done pretty much everything he's done with Punk. But it is funny that, wrestlers have to say this, because the truth is, you did I worked here. That would be the actual line if he was just saying what actually happened.
So did The Miz.
I worked here.
He says, if anyone should be embarrassed, Jeff, it's you. Because this fan has more Mania main events than you ever will. 2?
1.5.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
1.5. I mean, in a total technicality, he was the best part of WrestleMania 31, realistically, in terms of his that bump for the RKO and the heist of the century, and then, does night one count? Maybe it's not.
They're going to be Phil. They'll be telling Phil that in a few months. So I hope so.
No, he'll believe it. I hope it eats him up at night.
The thing is, one in and of itself is enough to needle CM Punk, isn't it? I've got more WrestleMania events than you have had. You got one. My point exactly, mate. That's still
But he says, that's more than you ever will. That's a fact, Phil. Punk's had enough at this point, and he jumps over the barricade, and they fight, and security and agents break him up, and then they come back together and they break him up, and then they jump in the ring together and fight, and they get broken up. I did like the bit where, Punk's trying to chuck some stuff around. Stop doing that, Phil. And then Rollins runs all the way around to meet him, and they fight again. That was just a brilliant way to end it, with CM Punk looking maniacal at the end of all of this.
We'll work backwards a little bit because we've already just put over some of our favourite bits there. We talk a lot about the brawls that feel fake and the brawls that feel real, because there's brawls every week in wrestling, sometimes on both shows each week. It's like you kind of remember the ones that actually feel like brawls, because ultimately it's a trope like everything else in wrestling. And the most recent example would probably be the Braun and Bronson Reed one, and it just how brawls sold that entire foohead ultimately. Sidge's example always of Matt Jackson diving through the
invisible
camera,
wall,
effectively the invisible wall.
We're
just fighting. Kevin Owens a little bit in this stuff with Cody Rhodes. One or both spotting that there's a load of bodies separating us up here, but there's a gap down there. I just thought it was down there. It was really, really inspiring.
Yeah.
Look at your surroundings. Think about, there's that little walkway that people used to go to the bogs or whatever. There's no security there. You can absolutely believe that they are in this fight because they're looking for spots with which to fight unimpeded. I thought that was so inspired, and that speaks to people that are going out there earlier in the day and really thinking about how to make all of this make sense. There's a promo later on, and we love him, right? But Karrion Kross and The Miz are doing their thing, and
oh my God.
WWE is ultimately at this point.
Where are you going?
It's
so good.
It is ultimately the preserve of each individual wrestler. Some will have more or less power or control or autonomy over their characters, or over, I guess, Triple H as the boss of all of this and what they're allowed to do and that kind of thing. And that was a lot of fun. And then Miz walks off and he's off the screen 2.5 seconds, and Karrion Kross is he's going to get his ass kicked or whatever. And it's just very WWE. He's just there, mate. There's no way he's
What you say?
Yeah, exactly, right? This is the sort of thing where Punk, and maybe Seth, but certainly in Punk, just would want this to make sense, and he would want the way all of this was shot and blocked and everything. They're not even selling the fists or turn taking when they are getting towards each other. If you watch the punches, it's just right hands, and they'll worry about the pain afterwards. Swing first, sort of sell later. If you imagine getting back with busted lips and bruised eyes and that, it's then when they'll actually go to a quiet corner and lick their wounds. Right now, it's just windmilling fists. So that's what you're seeing and that's why they're getting separated, ultimately. That's why you have to separate them. And because they're just so fired up, the one thing they can be rational about is empty space. I'll can see you there, mate. And I just really, really liked how they arranged that. And the promos were just... I was a bigger fan than you, I think, Sige, about the original one when Seth was the world champion. And
Much bigger than
Punk
me.
was making his rounds, basically, of all the people you kind of knew he was going to have stories with along the way. And I thought that was... I was sort of pretty gripped about the possibility of a WrestleMania match with those two then, back when Seth was the world champion. And who knows, maybe that's where they were going before Punk's injury. But here we are now. And I really loved here how... this was the first week where I would actually share Sige's take that there is a great heel that will one day escape out of CM Punk. I love watching him as a babyface because look at these crowds, they love it too. He is still a babyface.
He doesn't have to beg anymore for the CM Punk. They've finally learned how to friggin' do it.
The pops are there. CM Punk is a wrestling character more than he is this interesting pro wrestling figure. He's a WWE superstar again, and that's always been my favourite CM Punk, and it's just, that's why he's a babyface. Yeah, that's why he's a babyface now, and it's also why he'll make a great heel. And you see little bits of it creeping out in the sort of this idea that he can so quickly go from...
He wears a babyface suit.
You belong out there with the fans, you barely need to change your words to make that heel line. As in, I'm bigger than all of you. That's how simple it is for Punk to do that. And Seth Rollins, in the very same way, can play heelish and can... what's him and Drew? There's a bit of common ground. What are we doing there? can be the earnest babyface version of that by saying, yeah, I wear that with honor. I wear this WWE badge with honor, all that sort of stuff. They are not having to portray binary babyface heels to show their hatred to one another. Doesn't feel like much selling out of who you believe the character to be in order to get this over. And I think that really helps the brawl and it helps the lines. And the Netflix Raw is the right destination for it, which helps too.
Yeah, this absolutely doesn't feel WrestleMania sized. I'm glad it's not happening at WrestleMania. CM Punk, known hypocrite, claims to be off Twitter. What a joke. And he claims to
He tweeted 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he claims not to, accidentally, he claims not to be terminally online. He, in fact, is terminally online. But the good thing about that is that if it's very self-conscious or self-aware, depends how kind you're being, he probably saw a lot of people taking the absolute piss out of that awful, awful near confrontation they had. Was it last week or the week before? This is much better in terms of a brawl. I agree with Hamflett. It was well arranged. I always like the idea that we are not playing with TV tropes, that we can in fact subvert them to make it feel like we are not on television. Really well arranged brawl. They committed to it physically. Ready for this match. And it's a good job that Seth Rollins has got a new heel direction or some kind of mystery about his alignment coming up subsequent to all this, because he's been eaten alive. He has been eaten alive, and
I disagree. Personally, I really like Seth Rollins in this role. I don't agree. I think he is. They have found a way, because WWE is currently a babyface promotion. There's never been a better time for Seth Rollins to be this Seth Rollins. Best wrestling in the planet, period. Seth Rollins. This dies on its arse. Yes, CM Punk
is saying the same things,
but WWE's hot as and so Seth do it. Mate. No. Seth Rollins can do this now and it'd be credible. Like, he can say best wrestler on the planet, period, and loads less people are going to disagree with him because, like,
he's been eaten alive.
I don't like Punk is edgy. Punk is edgier. Punk is able to sort of feel Punk's realer than 95% guys when he's talking, even if he's a complete phony faker. Like, he makes his stuff sound more authentic than most wrestlers. That's why he's a higher tier than Seth Rollins. I'm not arguing they're kind of like
they looked
or anything.
A little bit like, oh god, well, Punk's in Seth's world, and in the last time. I'm saying the last time they had this face-to-face confrontation, it was like, oh, Christ, it's hat and a hat, to use Punk's turn of phrase, and he's used every gimmick and outlandish outfit imaginable to make him appear more interesting, at least superficially. He's found this song and this thing to finally bond him with the audience as a babyface. Post-Shield, when they had that initial face-to-face confrontation, it felt like Punk had walked into Seth Rollins' world, and Seth Rollins, you know, not pivotal to all this realistically, but he's had a good little account of himself, right? Fast forward to this version, Punk's done infinitely more interesting work. Punk's infinitely more interesting. Punk has told a story. I'm not saying he's completely self-absorbed or he's been really like a shark about this, but that running gag of, oh God, the boring twat who no one would ever miss and who's really, frankly, uninteresting. He's coming out again to steal my pop. He's eaten him alive. He's eaten him alive. Put it this way, there's absolutely no chance that Seth wins this match and goes on to be a Rumble favorite. It's back to the upper mid-card where you belong.
I don't disagree.
Eating him alive with a healthy degree of cynicism, I think.
I don't disagree with where Rollins will sit after this. I don't think Rollins is headed to the main event anytime soon. It's a more stacked field than when Rollins was actually on top, and that makes true what we've already said.
Did Rollins sign the deal in the end, the extension?
I can't remember, but when him and Becky Lynch's contract were both up around the same time last summer, was it? I think so. Yeah. I feel he is as big a fit of a top star now as anybody. The reality is, when all the top stars are around, that is when he is kind of othered a little bit and is put over, like, back in your box a little bit. Seth Rollins is probably the closest now to the old days of the stuff that Punk would protest against. Or where have all the guys gone? Like, WrestleMania happens. Where's everybody else on Raw? I'm the last one here. Seth Rollins is that now. Like, he does sort of exist all year round to be the top guy and then has to take the back seat when WrestleMania season comes along. That was evidenced at WrestleMania itself. But I've thought this for a little while now. I'm not so sure there's anybody that's ever managed that position any better. Like, I think, like, if you look at like Bret Hart was never Vince's guy, and there was the internal frustration was constantly bubbling up underneath him. Shawn Michaels couldn't draw as his guy. There have been countless people that are like playing the role of the top star until the real top star reveals himself. I think Seth Rollins has carved out an entirely new space that is his, that he will sell you on the fact that he believes he is the number one man in this company when absolutely nobody else will have it. And the fans respond in kind. Like, I think that he is an over that is real. It isn't just a song. Like, and they played on that with WrestleMania. Not many wrestlers survive what happened to him at WrestleMania 40. Didn't get a shot in.
It's a different audience, though. They are so forgiving.
We'll play to that audience. All right, and if you think it's a forgiving audience, I would argue that, Seth Rollins is like an ideal character for a forgiving audience, because it is okay to sympathise with a wrestler in 2024 if you can buy them climbing back up again. And I think coming out of this, CM Punk will go into something bigger than Seth Rollins, and he should. I think he's a stronger performer and a bigger star, and all the reasons I love CM Punk. But I think Seth Rollins gets to be sort of the most valuable asset, the most valuable utility player, or one of the most valuable utility players they've ever had for a role like this. I don't think many.
I think he goes away, no one misses him at all.
I don't think many could do.
I think if Sami Zayn goes away, people miss him. People think, Christ, he's really instrumental to he's the nuts and bolts, and everything fits together because of a character like that. Seth Rollins goes away, and I think CM Punk's exposed him.
But the difference now is the sympathetic audience you speak of elevates Sami Zayn to be on the utility player. The sympathetic audience now makes Sami Zayn a world champion.
That's because Sami Zayn's good.
Well, and he's better, yeah. This is what I mean. There's levels to it. Like, a lot of these names are better than Seth.
My general argument, I'm kind of bored of this conversation at this point. My general position...
I'm not saying, I'm really interested.
Is that Seth Rollins was kind of where you put him at maybe 12 months ago. I think the introduction of CM Punk has just changed all of that completely.
I think even more than Jey Uso, Seth Rollins is this sort of symbol of if you like WWE or not. Genuinely. When you watch Jey Uso now, I think what was happening initially with him was like, main event Jey Uso, frig off, it's Jey Uso, and then something like the WrestleMania entrance or like the vibe around him around Backlash or something. It's like, yep, that's undeniable. I see it. I get it. WWE is not for you. Hear that phrase a lot. WWE is not for me. I see that and I get that. That's pro wrestling. I think Seth Rollins is that. I think if WWE isn't for you, you'll just look at Seth Rollins and be like, why? What? He's a 2.5 star, 3-star wrestler at best. The gimmick is a lot of what CM Punk says it is. But I think if you kind of embrace this world of WWE, I think Seth Rollins makes more sense than most in it. Like, I find myself rooting for Seth Rollins at this point. Like, I have quite a sincere amount of respect for how somebody who I do think is pretty average and will always forget to sell his knee has found this level of being over.
He's found a good song.
He's found yeah. And I want to think it's more than a song. The Drew thing as well. Like, I love the Drew stuff later on.
I really like that, yeah.
There is a real investment in that character that you can't get away with the stuff like what they're going to do with him and Drew if there's not that, like, belief in him to begin with. Nobody's going to want him to gradually see Drew's point of view, and he might. And I think that's going to, like, break hearts. And I don't think that happens without the character being over in the first place.
Okay, I think it's a wish Jay White.
Oh, God. That's rough. That is rough. I don't even know what Jay White is to make a wish one of him. I think some weeks Jay White to wish Jay White.
I can confirm, yes, according to Vital Select, he did re-sign a new deal for big
money.
The first half of this year. That's nice. Judgment Day, meet backstage. Finn Balor's not in a good mood. Liv Morgan is, though. She's very happy with retaining her title, etc., etc. And Finn's like, where were you? Got my ass handed to me. What was going on? And she's like, I think you should be focused on the tag title match tonight, to be honest, Finn. And I thought you had it all under control. You know, listen to you win, right? Raquel,
that's awful.
Backs this point up, and then Liv's like, well, good luck with your tag title defense against the War Raiders. I've got a bit of a surprise for Raquel and Dom, and they all leave. And Jane McDonough's there by Finn Balor's side, and all Collie really wants to do is play 2K.
Yeah. He was setting up a game against the War Raiders on the game as well. Did you say that?
Practice.
Shut up, man.
See if you can find any, weaknesses in their game on 2K. This is where they had the Triple H Raw logo.
Oh my God.
Oh, don't press the
Do you
button for
like
that.
it? We didn't really talk, like, what's your thoughts
Yes,
on the
lush.
video and
This
the
is
rollout?
everything around this Netflix thing is incredible. Every single thing.
Sidge had a lot of fun at Triple H's expense and the alliteration. If WWE weren't doing a logo reveal as preposterous as that, I'd be thinking, what's wrong with it? Like, I expect that.
Yeah.
I absolutely fully expect some bollocks like that. That's how you roll this sort of stuff out. The keyword is promotion. They are a promotion, and they're the best at this complete nonsense. Like, I would have been like, oh, that's a bit underwhelming. I want that bollocks. It's complete. It's totally
It
territory,
feels
doesn't
like
it?
they're a good promotion.
Yeah.
Good. The Raw logo just doesn't look particularly good to me.
It's beautiful. Not as good as the NXT Comsplatter logo, but nothing's ever going to match up to that.
Yeah.
Postman
Like
Pierce.
the original 2.0 looks a bit like your jumper.
Yeah. That's got more of a...
That's Saved by the Bell, isn't it?
That's more of an early 90s...
Yeah.
I
Colour
like
wise,
that.
though.
I like that.
Colour palette.
This really is something. So Postman Pierce confronts Rollins backstage, trashing the bloody place. And he obviously wants a match with Punk immediately. And Pierce says if you stop trying to tear each other's eyes out, we're getting an eye for an eye match.
Seth, the IT guy from the office, don't do that anymore.
Maybe I'll be able to do my job. Postman Pierce leaves, and in comes Drew, who says, you once told me when it comes to Roman the Bloodline, hey, get over it, mate. And then Roman on Friday, another incredible cinematic piece for the Bloodline, said once he vanquishes his family, the whole world
was
will have
absolutely...
that was class.
Nah, it was crap. I don't know who the Roman Reigns thinks he is. I've got no idea who he thinks he is. He's giving mid-2000s... Why haven't they called me yet? Triple H. They're not going to call you. You're not funny. You've got a decent deadpan put down. You got a bit of an edge to you.
Amazing look.
He's not Batista and he's not Dwayne. He's neither. He's straight to video. He can do some voice acting for the Mafia series.
He's already in one of the greatest films of the last decade, so why even try?
Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh my God.
Audibly went, spear, when he hit it in the cinema.
See what you see, mate.
Yeah. He says, anyway.
Elbow and Louis explosion.
Still not finished Red One yet, but
It sucks.
Looking like they can't save Christmas right now where I'm at. So some bloke's just been possessed on a beach. It's really weird. I didn't like it. Not in like a I'm scared. In a
this
what the
film's
hell's this? Yeah. He says anyway. Drew says it's clear that Roman's still the same person, and everyone involved is enabling him. Sami Zayn, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso. They all need to be taken out. And Seth's like, I took him out of power already. And who's by my side? Jay and Sammy. They're my friends. You're not my friend. Common interests don't make friendships. Friendships are formed on respect. I respect Jay and Sammy. You, jury's out. But I'm planning on doing something that you couldn't, and that's end CM Punk.
This is brilliant.
This was great.
I love these every single week. They've done such a fantastic job of not just enhancing the Roman Reigns babyface turn with all of the various moving parts that happen as a result of a Roman Reigns babyface turn, but of what it does. We talked about it with Sami Zayn a few weeks ago, what it does to every single other character. And then, oh, look, that can overlap with CM Punk now because there they are, the two men, the 8 and the 6, like of CM Punk on screen together and how that's going to play out. Like CM Punk is on Drew McIntyre's hit list again, like as a result of him going through the War Games babyfaces. And yet, Seth Rollins is probably going to get there first as a result of the Netflix match, and Drew will be like, you know what, I'm going to get you? The Royal Rumble, because it went pretty well for me last year. They can try and pay that off that he's going to hit him with the DDT if Punk's in the Rumble, isn't he? I knew that it would be good when Roman Reigns came back as a babyface and he would say yeet and bloodline. I knew it would be good. Like, I just had absolute faith that you simply don't have a WrestleMania 40 closing scene like that with so many wrestlers and it not like create loads of avenues of storylines. I didn't think it would be this good. Like, what's that meme? Like, our expectations were high, but holy
yeah.
Like, these interactions, like every single time are just like leave me fizzing. Genuinely, I love them.
I love the principle, and I really am in admiration of how all of the pieces fit together and overlap. I watch a segment like this, and I see the two guys I don't really want in the WrestleMania picture. That's what I see. I see Drew's had his run. Drew and Seth are two very, very similar wrestlers. I prefer Drew, but they've both got... CM Punk is almost too effective in that he says they're a bit boring and that they need him to be more interesting. It's like, yeah, they sure do. They sure do. Left to their own devices, I'm not sure. It feels like they are the spare parts around WrestleMania season. I'm not interested. I don't know if this ends up in a match or what.
Them two as a team against the Usos...
I don't
could
hate
be
that
something,
at all.
couldn't it? Like
don't hate that
WrestleMania
at all.
sized.
I really don't hate that.
Certainly seemed like later on Drew had just decided, I'll just kill you right now.
And that's an interesting wrinkle, isn't it? Like, so you were right. So I was right then. I can't trust you. And at any given moment, you're going to, yeah.
It's good. It's good storytelling. It is that. But I feel like Drew's had his day. And I feel like the way this is all shook out, I just can't care about Seth Rollins, man.
Where we completely agree. This is the time of year where, like, you think about the WrestleMania cards, of which there's 10. You think of the odd ones out, of which there is always at least one, and it's always a big name. Like, that always just happens, and it's unfortunate. I completely agree. These are currently the two.
Yeah, it's like, where do they fit?
If you're these two, and you already know there's like 6 guys above you doing their own politicking, how then do you do your like tier below politicking?
Yeah.
We're not going to get the main event. Well, I want the opener then. Yeah, but there's 6 of them up there. Like, what are we going to do?
I feel like maybe we'll wait till the Raw Netflix debut, but maybe that week we give our predictions for our WrestleMania cards.
Yeah.
Because it's so up in the air.
Yeah.
You get one then, you get a post-Rumble one as it becomes clear who they might be setting up for like last year they did that really nice, like quite elegant thing, didn't they, with the women's Rumble, where the last remaining ones were the Elimination Chamber members, and then they've all gone on, I think, and won there. Because like Liv Morgan was like, they've all gone on won like the titles. So that kind of stuff you would suggest, if nothing else, while he's booking boring-ass battle royals, he is actually showing you the directions as well.
The first of 2 title matches came next. It was the IC title, Ludwig Kaiser challenging the champion, Braun Breaker. Braun early on, not happy at being slapped. Why does everyone try this slapping crap? He knocks Kaiser to the outside with a huge clothesline. I think that took us to a break. When we come back, Kaiser rolls to the outside to get away from Braun, or just later on in the match. I can't remember. My brain's all over the place today. He flies off the apron for his spot where Kaiser's sat on the announce table, and he just gets taken out there. But Braun comes up, certainly favouring his left arm, that has been slightly targeted by Kaiser, but now he absolutely hones in on it. And Kaiser, as he's done a couple of times in the match, just thumbs in the eye, targets the arm, puts his arm around the corner. Ref counts to 4, and then he drop kicks the back of the shoulder after hitting the ropes, does Ludwig Kaiser. He again focuses, after we come back from another break, on the shoulder. Braun comes back, knee strike, just using his right arm, 4 strikes. Still manages to hit a leaping Frankensteiner.
Oh my God.
But Kaiser avoided the spear and got a surprise roll-up for 2. Braun missed a tackle and went shoulder first into the turnbuckle. I was genuinely thinking for a split second, is he going to do the spot where he goes shoulder first in the turnbuckle and goes, oh, my arm's all right now, I fixed it. But Braun crumples to the outside. He's against the steel steps. Kaiser sees that opportunity to do the spot where he runs around and drop kicks him into the steps. Runs around. Hey, where's Braun gone? Turns around. Huge shoulder tackle from a one-armed Braun breaker. Gutbuster. And the super spear gets the 1, 2, 3.
Step on my own dick by saying I thought this was boring, but I want to ask a question about how we judge things like this on a podcast. Generally, and this is WWE and AEW, for consistency, are we kind to wrestling shows when things happen pretty clearly for like logistical reasons? Why I'm asking that now is because this was 3 matches on the show? 4?
Yeah.
It felt like there was hardly anything. It was,
all too long.
It was good in that respect.
All too long. Now it happened in most of them. For the large portions, and they all felt like this was 6. This was like 15 minutes, and it should have been 6 or whatever it was. For what was at the detail, that
18
was actually
minutes.
18, right? Yeah.
Jesus,
It was like there was
Christ. I knew it was boring, but Christ.
at a max there was 6 minutes of actual detail and story, and this stretched out over 18. I feel like that happened with the other matches. There was just like 3 or 4 matches, and then you're like, well, right, double taping so the wrestlers can go home at this time of year, so the fans aren't too knackered for the second taping.
Yes.
I've been to a double taping before, that's real. And the one I went to was in like 2008 there. Jeff Hardy pinned Triple H and The Undertaker across those. That's how desperate they were to keep fans hot, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you just cannot watch 6 matches, 5 matches, whatever, and then another 6 matches and 5 matches and 2 Raws play out. Like, and I feel like we've like had this with like AEW when there's like a rampage or a collision, whatever. Like, do you forgive a company for trying to think about this logistically, for taking boring options for those logistics, is what I'm saying here.
If it was that hot, they could have made 2 hot shows.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah, because I just think on another night of a singular live show, this doesn't go 18 friggin' minutes, and it doesn't go, like, it probably goes 10, and and even then it might feel a bit stretched out, but they tell the arm story, and they tell the Bron Breakker making the heroic babyface comeback, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as lethargic, because that was my only sort of justification, I guess, for what this was. I thought this was drab. I was nervous it was going to be drab, because these have this kind of like, it's not anti-chemistry, but the matches...
You're just sprinkling a Sheamus in there, don't you?
Yeah, the matches do have a bit of a problem with dragging sometimes.
Bron Breakker singles match?
A little bit. Like, the long one, the anything sub 7 minutes, I think you're all right with the Bron Breakker singles. I'm not sure if over 10, 12, they've really figured that out yet, because he kind of had one with Sami Zayn that was a bit on the drab side as well, that ran a bit long. There was just not anywhere near enough to this to justify the runtime, to be honest, and I don't need this amount of time of Bron Breakker selling limbs. The last time it felt this way was NXT, when it felt like they were turning him into 03 Goldberg. They have gotten away from that with him on the main roster.
Yeah.
Don't go back to it.
This was so tedious. Like, it's always forward and back, where so back, it's so over with Bron Breakker. Jesus Christ. We've talked about, and at some point in 2024, we will resolve New Year's resolution. We will do who's actually a pro wrestling genius, and discuss it in a long form podcast. He's certainly not on that. He won't be included there. He's in that Enigma pile that we talk about. How good's Jay White, really?
Yeah.
How good is Seth Rollins, really? Is Bron Breakker good, or is he ever going to make it? It's just there's certain wrestlers who just foster these pretty conversations as tedious as this match. These circular conversations of, is he good, or is he bad, or is he boring, or has he got potential, or are they using him correctly, or he just doesn't have the substance. I don't need to see Bron Breakker, who they see as a main eventer, and with WWE more than any other promotion ever, if they see someone as a main eventer, he will one day become a main eventer, and they will just force it and force it and force it. Does he have to be? Is it written in the actual stars, or is it just written on some prick's book to make it happen? I think it's just written on some prick's book. Time and time again, the amount of times Bron Breakker has worked a lengthy singles match, and it has so much heatless flab downtime, unacceptable considering what he's meant to be. And is it harsh on him? How long has he been wrestling, really? Is the system fit for purpose? And he's having all of these boring conversations in a vacuum. I just know that I didn't particularly believe Bron Breakker's selling. I didn't want to live or die with him in this match. I didn't care about it. Ludwig Kaiser. I've got an interesting slant on this conversation, because it's just the same ones you have with Bron Breakker every month or so. I'm telling you, just give him a triple threat division. Give him a multi-man division. He can do that. That's what he's good for. Good hot tag wrestler, etc., etc., etc. I just didn't want to see him do this for 18 minutes, and he can't be that. And that's the thing. It's like you can learn so much of wrestling, but there's some stuff you can't get taught. If I don't give a toss about him, it's really hard to just learn how to make people give a toss about you, you know? I can't really see it happening. I don't think Bron Breakker is going to headline WrestleMania 43. It ain't happening. For me, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's a lock to happen. Here's something, though. Bron Breakker, it's been reported, probably Fightful Select, we'll just put it out there, it's always SAP. They're going in a deliberate tweener direction, letting the fans, like, just a guy who can wrestle babyface is a guy who can wrestle heels. Like the badass, it's like the heel, the babyface, and the badass Bron Breakker. Is that a strategic error? I'm starting to think yes, particularly in this version of WWE, where goodies are goodies and baddies are baddies, and it's pretty binary and refreshing for the first time in years and years and years. I think it's a strategic booking error of Triple H to make him the badass, because people don't really like... He's a pretty mouthy, aggressive dude who, Bron Breakker, who will, you know, he'll kick Jey Uso's ass and then shake it across 2 different weeks. Shake his hand or kick his ass, and it's all a bit muddled. I just think it's been poor booking, really, really poorly booked. Didn't he, Bron Breakker, not too long ago, start doing this catchphrase, and then for some unspeakably dumb reason, they dropped it where I was like, where are my dogs at in the garden? Or where's all my Boston dogs at? And they would go, oh, oh, oh. Do that.
Yeah.
He's an awesome, explosive babyface. Triple H's wank fantasies about being hard projected onto Bron Breakker. It's not working for him at all. I think he's been poorly booked.
We've flagged this up a few times now, I think. Like, I would campaign for him to be a babyface. Yeah. Absolutely. I think his explosive comebacks are too good not to. But they have occasionally programmed him as a heel, and against the right babyface it works. So you're like, well, if that's what you want, do that. So there's an argument for both, I guess, regardless of what your taste is. But they are choosing not to have that argument. They're choosing to do the right babyface tonight because he has to kind of like solve the puzzle of Ludwig Kaiser, and then he's going to be a bully and jock if it's just him and Sheamus. For the most recent example, it might be somebody else down the line. I'm with you 100%. I don't like that either. There is a babyface for now. There is a heel down the line, of which I think we've seen evidence of as well. Very versatile in that regard. On your main event thing, and I really like that as a point to explore as we go into 2025 WWE, because it is the way it's supposed to be. The example that popped into my head when you were talking about that there is like, do you see him as a main event at WrestleMania? Like, the wrestlers, as much as the bookers, often decide that. The example that Bruce Pritchard used to use about Steve Austin kind of like negging the Rock backstage, he's not going to get over those nursery rhymes, and all of them are going, I think it's happening, Steve. Mate, and then Austin has to go, all right, yeah, fair game. 3 WrestleManias later, and the kind of legacy rivals. Like, what he didn't do that for was a Billy Gunn or a Jeff Jarrett. He was wrong about that one. But Billy Gunn, it was the big example. You got Jim Ross every week calling him best pure athlete. I didn't know what it meant, but I bought it because he was jacked and tall and had cool gear. And he said ass, and they gave him the king of the ring, and they did all these sort of things. And there was a number of times, and he worked the Rock at SummerSlam, there was a number of times when the wrestlers in that Jim Ross Shark Tank went, nope. And that was Billy Gunn's cards marked, and it's a difficult, awkward name to bring up, but I remember he had a match with Chris Benoit at a pay-per-view for the Intercontinental title, and it looked like an injustice that Billy Gunn was ever even in that league, because it was like, you are not it, mate. And I was kind of a Billy Gunn guy, but no. Bron Breakker, ultimately, is probably...
Billy Gunn.
I think he's better than Billy Gunn right now. That's not the comparison I'm aiming for, but in terms of where people sit, that exact conversation we were having 5 minutes ago about the kind of tier of top guys, and like Drew and Seth wanting to be like, oh, we want to be at this table too, and we want to be in this conversation with The Rock and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And they will decide Bron Breakker as well. He will be given the chance to go with one or two of them.
Punk's alluded to a match with them before, hasn't he? Yeah.
And they will, along with whatever Triple H sees as Bron Breakker's ceiling, they will decide that, because if they go out there and have an 18-minute bore, then it looks bad on them. And who's getting it? This is wrestling. If he goes out there and has 18 minutes with Roman Reigns, that's as dull as it was with Ludwig Kaiser, who's getting the blame for that?
Yeah,
it's not Roman Reigns, is it? That's how it works. Like, ultimately, I'd like to think that even if, let's say, Triple H has it in his mind that to the moon, you're going to the moon, you wrestle Cameron Grimes there, you got experience up there, you're going back to the moon on the main roster, there is a top tier in place now, and if you're going to break into that, you best be good for the spot. And I just think that's Bron Breakker, for me, is probably the most interesting to watch that play out for, because the jury's still out, isn't it, in a number of key areas.
That's a good point.
Fair play for defending the title with one arm, though.
I like the one-arm spear. I like him going to the...
It's fake.
You know it's fake, right?
So I never know with him.
I'll tell you what wasn't fake. The New Day arriving backstage and bumping into locker room leader Rey Mysterio, who stops them from walking in the locker room. And Xavier's like, you got a problem with us too? Rey says, everyone's got a problem with you. No one wants you guys in the locker room. And Kofi's like, oh, suddenly nobody's got our back after 10 years of sharing this locker room with us. You're the locker room leader. Why don't you do something about it? And Rey said, you crossed the line with Big E. I think it's in your best interest to find somewhere else to change. Woods goes, well, we don't want to share a locker room with you anyway.
I think the slow burn continues to be wonderful. The board is not yet, Triple H has not done a fabulous job of booking a tag division, right? So the board is not yet set out for New Day to immediately go on this like epic heel run as a tag team in the ring. So what do? You flesh out what they've done to Big E, and we've just seen that week on week on week. Last time it was the Otis thing as a sort of a nod that you pointed out of, well, it's kind of getting beat off them.
Yeah.
Took us to this point, and they're the first people we're going to target. Well, not friends anymore, yeah. They're going to beat them in some nasty bullying heel match. But yet again, they're getting everything else right. Getting kicked out the locker room, we know enough to know about the Brazeness and know what that represents. So you can absolutely buy that that's a thing. Big E, the Universal, you absolutely don't. You don't piss off the dead man. You don't like sort of annoy JBL or whatever, and you don't like sort of send Big E packing. You don't do that to that man. He is
Quite
beloved.
right.
And who's get to do that? Rey Mysterio. What are they going to do to Rey Mysterio down the line? Like, they're nailing all the right key figures in all the right key spots while, and this is what's really smart about this, while kind of obscuring that nothing's happening. You can make nothing happening look like something in wrestling through ways like this.
Saying this to Andy on the news, is their first match as heels the Netflix debut?
Possibly, yeah. It's a selling point, whenever it is.
Yeah, I'm mixed on this. You can go back and listen to the audio and watch the video. I loved the turn angle, just like everybody did. I thought it was to Dominic Mysterio, the follow up. Has it? I think that the jury's still out. It's still very much to be determined. If this had worked, and maybe this is just my wrestling brain projecting onto WWE, and it's got no interest in my wrestling brain, and I'm happy to admit that. If this had worked as deliriously well as I would have hoped, if you go after Big E, you should be putting them out in the arena every single week in front of fans, baying for them every single week. Don't miss an opportunity.
Unless in the argument that Hamflett presented, they do come out next week, but you're doing double taping. So you
maybe.
I guess some wrestlers are going to use behind backstage this week and front house next week.
We were trying to find somewhere to get changed backstage, but everywhere in Boston sucks.
Yeah.
And then you bring them out.
Yeah. Maybe it feels like I've just got a different brain to use, and that's fine. And WWE's creative and their fandom, I feel very, very detached from it. My wrestling brain says if this was as much of a transgression as it really should have been, and I personally received it as, get them out in that ring in front of live fans every week and soak it up. It's just, how many more things do you have to do to get here on these guys? I don't know. It just
they have like 11,000 people in the TD Garden. They better put them out there next week. You're right.
That's fair. No, that's a fair point. You kind of don't want to waste a crowd ever.
Yeah.
While
they're this hot.
Yeah.
You know?
I do think what's happening here, again, without it really being mentioned, and I think sometimes, I suppose, maybe my feeling is more reflective of like a wider WWE audience. Some of the elements that they're holding back on are some of the best things you want to see. What's the music? What's the gear? What's the look?
Yeah. Because
it's going to have to be completely different. And sometimes in wrestling, like the gag was the South Park did it, didn't they? With the is it the Star Trek alternate universe goatee? Wrestling would often just be like really shortcut, like, I don't know, grow your beard out and get gear in black instead of yellow, whatever it is, and just like, you're this now. And
happy guy tights. Get rid of the happy guy tights.
Just be brooding and scowl a little bit. This is, I think the New Day just had 10 years of the power of positivity was their entire thing. And like to see how that's whatever they're going to transform that into in this new version, the music or not, whatever, I think is a worthwhile thing to hold on to as long as you can.
Reminds me of like, you see things, we see it on Reels, not on TikTok, but they probably originate on TikTok. And they're like, here's some like really sad sports moments. You're like, what music are we going to put with that? Well, here's a really popular song, but we've pitch shifted it and slowed it down.
Reverb.
Yeah. New Day theme, but really slowed down, basically.
Or like the friggin'...
it's spooky and I don't like it.
The decade plus long, like sort of just the tyranny that we've lived through of like some awful arsehole marketing exec in a John Lewis boardroom going, you know that really catchy, joyous pop song? What if we slow it down and play it in a minor key?
Yeah.
I'll never see you coming. Cry. You're going to cry. And then this year,
you're going to cry yet.
This year the advert was
going to cry yet, Grandma.
This year the advert was like about like a woman going shopping for a gift, and people were like, what the is this?
I want to be crying.
It's not a shop.
John Lewis isn't a shop.
Yeah, I'm supposed to feel something. Where's the toy penguin?
The toy penguin.
Where's the orphan?
The toy penguin was there was
like a 9-year.
Snowman went shopping for a scarf for his missus or something. Didn't he?
And then, oh god, she's melted because so have I when we made a snow. A 9-year-old fella lives on the moon.
That was the weird. I was about to get because there's that. There was like, oh, what if a rabbit bought a bear a gift? Well, he's meant to be hibernating. You've killed him probably there. But the weird one was like, what if there was a man on the moon?
And he's 90, so cry.
Yeah, probably die up there now. So think about that.
I love John Lewis. If only I knew what kind of business it was. See you next year.
I like John Lewis. I ride on getting something arranged for Christmas. a real thing.
They're also real swines about the price match.
I will say, just in case, a very helpful guy helped me out. But he was like, no, it's a bit of a rigmarole this. Basically, online doesn't equal shop price. So if you want to go in, it's like, all right, cool, you can order for you and you can collect it. But if you've got an Elton Square voucher, you have to buy a John Lewis voucher. I'm here 20 minutes.
I didn't realise this.
Online.
And this is not, just to clarify as well, this is not at John Lewis, the man who owns
I love the vibe of John Lewis. I love walking around. I love
Wilbourn an account on Twitter that
the man who owns the
Lewis.
John Lewis thing, who every year people are like, I hate John Lewis. And he's like, what did I do?
Also,
he never thought to say, well, he has. I'm sure they would pay through the arse for it, basically.
This feels like a nice time, just so we can be under no sort of misapprehension here. This is a shout out to retail staff at this time of year.
Yes.
You might listen
Yeah.
or watch
So
or whatever,
awesome,
because
this guy.
Jesus Christ.
We have the hardest jobs.
Really
We
helpful.
probably second hardest. Teachers third, probably.
Done that again. Do you ever work any Christmas days when you were younger? In any jobs? Any part-time jobs?
No. I've got there's a little story.
I worked 2 when I worked like in pubs and bars and stuff. It's all right. Like went out like sort of lunchtime.
I always pre-recorded. I'm like, "Whoa, happy Christmas!" I'm home. I'm getting pissed, lads. Here's some guests that we've had over the year because I can't be asked to think of anything else to talk about.
I mean, obviously, until we started doing Secret Banter, where we're coming out.
Yeah, I was a little bit sneaky. Third year of uni. So I should probably get a part-time job. Lasted the first 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Third year, I better get a part because I wanted to live there in the summer. Because I'd usually gone home for the summers, and I was like, I want to live there in the summer because all my friends are going there in the summer, and I was like, I need a job, so I'll get a job done. So I get a job at an unnamed jewelry shop chain, and so I was like, CV, and they're like, sell me this hideous blocky bit of jewelry. And so that was like the audition.
Like Jordan Belfort almost.
Yeah.
And I went, well, you look like someone who can make some bold, brave fashion choices and really, really pull it off. You might think to look at it that's really blocky and cumbersome, but think about when you put a watch on for the first time. It feels a bit funny, right? Like you're not used to the extra weight, but it feels almost weird to take it off after a while. That's what you'll feel like in this necklace. And yeah, you could definitely I can see you pulling that off. You could definitely pull that off.
Take my money. Fantastic work. Don't actually take my money.
Got the job.
Yeah,
Good work.
Of course you're doing that, yeah.
Under the proviso of it's not a summer job, we're going to need you in the Christmas holidays for retail. We're going to need you in the Christmas holidays. Can you commit to that? I was like, I'm just on one of your contracts that I could just break as soon as... I'll be in for the long haul, and I'm a student. I need my job. Get the student loan in September. See you later, guys. I'm sorry. I kind of left you in the lurch.
I was the exact same.
But at least I didn't leave like at the beginning of December.
Oh, I did. Yeah. When I worked, I
give them enough time to advertise and fill the position.
I wish I had you've told me this story, I wish I had your bravery. I was like, my dad.
I give them plenty of literal notice.
Love your dad, and you do watch sometimes. Too principled for his own good. If I'd have dared try anything like that, he would have like physically marched me down to like apologise to my boss. And like, you want fucking money, pal. You made a deal.
My parents were pissed off because like, oh, so we're going to give you an extra couple of £100 at the end of the term again. It's like, yeah, probably.
My parents weren't
I thought
because
you were going to sort yourself out a little bit. It's like, I did for 2 months.
if anything, they were part of the
And
scheme.
I paid rent, and now I've got a student loan. So
I think it was my first job. My first job, aside from delivering leaflets after I graduated university.
Yeah,
it was a
tricky period.
It was summer of 2009. Not a great deal of jobs around, but the new big Tesco had opened in Chesterfield. So I started working there. Price integrity. Changed the signs when the sales finished, basically. We did that from, let's say, I don't know, September, something like that. September. Yeah, like you say, this is now, but with a view to, we'll really need, we'll train you in price integrity, but when December hits, boom, we are going to need all hands to the pump, everyone
don't
on
make it sound that intimidating, and then maybe I would have signed
everyone
up
on
for
the, everyone on
longer.
the tills. Yeah. You're going to do that. Yeah. You're going to sign something. Definitely not. September, October, November, November 30th. There's my notice. See you later, guys. The Panto's here, and that's calling me home, baby. I went and worked Panto instead. So, way better money and more fun. I put a cow's head on when I was working the Panto. I can't do that at Tesco, so thanks very much. See you later, guys.
I had a nice Christmas day working in a pub. My mum.
Oh, that sounds class.
Like, mum's an A&E nurse, so there was always this deal where in her team, you had to sign up to do either Christmas Day or New Year's Day. And there was always this split.
Yeah.
And I was old enough where she was like, I'll start working Christmas Day because it means like, New Year's Day was worse. Basically, it was a harder shift in her niche. She was like, well, I work Christmas Day, my son's old enough. So then at like midday, we weren't having like Christmas dinner or anything because she wasn't back in the house till tea time. So I went
yourself.
I've got a pretty happy memory of going to work in the pub I worked at.
Here it comes.
No. Well, at the start of the shift, he was an old fella called Rod. He was a really great landlord and a good boss. And he said, oh, well, we've got like Christmas dinners out for people. Like you're on till, I think I was doing like 12 till 9 or something. So it was like, if you want your dinner first, if you haven't had one at home already, like have at it. So I went and got like a quality Christmas dinner, cooked from the kitchen. It was really great. Let that go down and then just
Had a sleep.
Started my shift thinking I'll work all the way through. It's in a pub, like it's physical, but you know, you can do it. And it's nice crack with the punters and stuff and you get good tips. And then at like sort of 5, 6 o'clock comes around. I'm just going to go on my break, Rod. I know, but you'll have to get yourself a dinner. Who'd forgotten? I had 2 Christmas dinners.
Double dinner.
Double dinner.
Best Christmas ever.
Double dinner, good tips. Good stuff. Customers that I can since now kind of relate to. Yeah, nice memories actually, yeah.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas, everyone.
Double hourly rate, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
I felt you'd feel rich whenever you got like any overtime when like sort of if you're in an hourly rate job, you kind of like you're filling in your timesheet, aren't you? You're doing the quick maths, and you're like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
30 Warbucks over here.
On Raw, that was Kevin Owen, Cody Rhodes video package.
Kevin Owen.
And Tessa Tor informs us that Rhodes still got a hurty neck. We get a... He's fine. It's a work. There's a good video package on the War Raiders. They talk about, you know, the how they felt invincible, and then they got these horrible injuries over the years. Should have ended their careers, but it didn't. Then Judgment Day tried to end their careers and cheat them out of the titles, but now they're stronger than ever. Every match could be their last. They had to do it now. Eric, great first name, talked about his sons, saying how they needed to know all the pain was worth it, and the only way they can do that is by winning the tag titles in the main event.
You pieces of trash. You got them over at the last second. An absolute, this felt like, because I feel like Paul Levesque should pay for more of his sins personally as a booker. But from any heart, this doesn't happen, okay? It's felt like you're 3-0 up. If you're a hater, for me, this is the analogy of being a hater. You're 3-0 up.
Against finals.
You're 2-0 up against a pretty unfancied team at home. Just expected to win.
Feyenoord in the Champions League, for example.
You Swansea playing Sunderland.
He knows. And shut up, man. And then you concede a last-minute equaliser, and you're like, oh, for God's sake, how the if we're throwing this away? And it just felt like, all right, little video package with the family. It's like, oh, they're getting the fans on side around Christmas.
And
then they weren't over, and he should have been bollocked and buried for putting, for the third time in recent memory, maybe in as many weeks, putting titles, a title or a set of titles on an act that ain't over. Shinsuke, DIY, no one really cares. And then now, War Raiders.
I couldn't believe the noise of this main event for them.
Yeah,
I think as well, it was like Ivar's hometown. I swear.
You son of a bitch.
Tessa Tor mentioned it in the main event.
Well, see, I was ready.
Trained Sasha Banks in Boston.
I was ready to be pretty critical of the video, and then the match got them the reaction. So it's like, well, then that was effective.
Yeah,
like I did.
It's just like
I didn't like it.
Faked. I mean, guess what? Breaking news, guys. Professional wrestling, even WWE's bastardization of it, is a work.
Yep.
And it's better late than never. And it just feels like there's a stickhead's going to say, see? And, you know, it's just the kind of, there's no earning in wrestling. There's manipulating. And no one gets earned. It's a fake work, right? And they've manipulated people into thinking that they deserve the titles. And it's bloody worked, and Levesque's done it again. And I want to throw him a big party and a big parade. God damn it.
I like to throw a party and parade from every week, but I'm not going to throw him on this because I don't think it's going to...
It's not probably going to carry over.
I'm not going to see this. Yeah, like the video, it made me think of that time when, like, after Becky Lynch had gotten all the way over as the man, and she said that, like, she'd had a chat in like 2016, I think, SmackDown Women's Champion, but she knew the
Everyone got the belt.
She knew the writing was on the wall, and she was going to lose it to Alexa Bliss, and I think she, like, John Cena had popped back in, and she was like, not what am I doing wrong, but what can I do? I want to be you. I want main event WrestleMania. That was actually a goal of hers. And John Cena said, well, who are you? And it's one of them things, isn't it? It's like the simplest question should have the simplest answer. And by 2019, she was the man. And she was like, well, the Irish lass kicker. And I honestly think his response was, what's that?
What the hell is even?
What the hell is even that? And it's like, it's something to put on a t-shirt. It's like barely wordplay, but like it's, everyone was getting over in NXT, so this is what I've carried forward. And the people like me, he's like, yeah, but what is it? And it's like, it was his way of like the old sort of thing about like gimmick sell t-shirts, character sell tickets. You got to see the person behind whatever the catchphrase is or whatever. I still think we're there with the War Raiders because this was that last minute attempt to be like, oh, we're family men who like 3 weeks ago had logos on fire.
Yeah.
Or we're into whatever the frig him and Sarah Rowe do to animals back at their weird cult farm. Like it's
brains out probably.
That's where they live.
Probably blow like small animals for defenseless brains out.
Where they live is where you wouldn't want your
Michaels, tell me more.
Yeah, you wouldn't want your car to break down outside their garden. We're just like, oh, thank God there's a house. Oh God, it's the Rose. Like,
Yeah.
Feed you dinner.
you look like you need a shower. Let me get the hose pipe and dry off in this pelt. You got any real towels? Animal skin is nature's towel.
I was just taking my pet actually to the dog park. It's a gerbil. I'll take care of that one for you. Boom.
Would you like some dinner? We're having gerbil sandwiches. Where'd you get the gerbils? Don't ask.
It's fresh.
Right.
Use the skin as a flannel.
This was where it was confirmed to Kathy Kelly by Postman Pierce that yes, Punk versus Seth Rollins is going to happen on the Netflix debut of Raw, January 6th. Good date to remember that. Then Liv Morgan comes out with Raquel Rodriguez and Dom, and Dom obviously can barely get any words out to introduce her. She's got a megaphone to announce she's the greatest women's world champion ever.
Needed.
2024, she says, was the year of Monday Night Morgan. They're just getting started. There are a lot of historic changes next year, but there's no one better, hotter, and more iconic to lead this company than her. But then we hear, Rhea Ripley interrupts. She says,
what would the start of Rhea Ripley's theme be like if instead of that it used the catchphrase of, oh, I can't think of anyone, Cody Rhodes?
Do you want, which way do you want it?
The Rhea Ripley way, but with the words.
The Rhea Ripley with the Cody words?
Yeah, please.
What do you guys want to talk about? Okay. I can do the other one. I'll take that on SmackDown.
What would Rhea Ripley's theme sound like if instead of her catchphrase, it was the name of a AEW women's wrestler with great live show charisma?
Is it the one who just fought for the title?
Yeah, it might be. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's just good to know in case it ever,
in case it ever comes up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes that challenge stuff, innit?
Liv says that no one cares what you got to say. Rhea tells her just shut up. It's gone on long enough. Pierce has made it official. She's got a shot at the title. It wasn't clarified, I don't think, where this was going to happen. Could be another massive match for the Netflix debut. But yeah, the one thing Liv can get excited for is the end of her title reign. I will be the new women's world champion, says Rhea, and all you'll be left with is your little chicken tender slut.
Don't laugh at that and don't press the button. It was awful.
I'm with him on this.
It's awful. It needs to end. Stop lying. It's awful. Like barely even wordplay.
Yeah.
Like this stuff absolutely stinks. I was quite excited about, oh God, Io Sky's going to be in the mix. Maybe, but like, oh my God, this is so awful.
You know why Wilbourn likes it?
Chicken tender slut.
Chicken tender slut is babyface rock of like everything pre-final boss, isn't it?
And he was like, still fighting that title.
Yeah. Chicken tender slut. It doesn't work, right? Yeah. It doesn't work. Wrestling has this thing sometimes.
I'm a bit of a chicken tender slut, to be honest.
Oh, me too, but it's a...
I missed a return at AEW's All In because I've been a chicken tender slut.
Like you're a boneless wings guy, aren't you?
No, I do. I can take it both ways, me. I'll take them both.
I'm making chicken wings for my tea tonight.
What's your KFC orders, not the one that you cook at home? What's your shoot KFC
I
orders?
don't really go to KFC.
Book it for one.
Because I can cook it at home, so.
Book it for one. I was a boneless banquet kind of
Boneless
guy.
banquet guy.
But a book it for one. It's,
just meat on the bone's awesome, man. I'm making chicken wings tonight.
Gets in the way, then, doesn't it, the bones? It's messier on the hands. Yeah. Messier on the hands as well.
Gullet.
It's like Theresa May laughing, but a fish goes down her throat. That's it, really.
I'm one of the few people that actually understood why Bevo got over.
Oh, Bevo!
There is a practicality to that, in a way.
Bevo!
Yeah, this whole segment was just like wrestling gets away with every now and then just being like, are you really excited for this match? No. Are you glad it's finally over? Yeah! That's what they were. They were trading on finality here, weren't they?
Add this to Cole and MJF. Leave all this in 2024.
Yeah,
Thank you very
like
much.
It totally stinks. It totally stinks. I'm making chicken wings in a honey and sriracha glaze tonight.
Nice.
Well, for a good reason, I might have to help Santa in the setting up of a certain Christmas present this evening.
You hate him,
Yeah.
though.
He's Santa? Oh, I'm grand with Santa. I think his busiest time of year can be quite stressful for other people too. But so
I love Santa,
just
mate.
get a Greggs and bring it in here.
I love Santa.
If we ever see you with that goddamn tea order again as we're leaving work.
Oh, that's what I'm getting.
10 cheese slices and a big piece of bread. 20 quick Kinder Buenos. Thanks, Mark Lee Willis.
£3. Like bread.
It's not good, though, is it?
No, you're right. It's great. So it just makes it clear that we have to distinguish between those two words.
Yes, please do. What's next on the
I'll
show?
have something probably in between those two dinners for my tea, by the way.
Buying ingredients this week for Christmas dinner.
Oh, good stuff.
Sige. Like, getting the stuff in for it.
Stuffing.
Probably.
Yeah. This is where they try to interview Rollins, and it looks like McIntyre's going to jump him, but then Sami Zayn jumps him, and there's a big brawl.
That's such a great bit as well, because already Drew is like, well, like I'm operating in a kind of with me or against me situation here, which he will walk back now because he realised Seth's more valuable to him. And the idea that even
I was going to sneak hug you.
yeah, even in the moment of his attack, Sami Zayn is such a good guy that he'll be like, I'll deal with this. I'll throw my body into it. And then if like Seth turns, it's like, you bastard, mate. Like, look what he would have done for you. Like,
I want this to be like a train as well. So it's like Seth stood there, no, Punk stood there. Yeah, I'm really looking forward. Seth's going to attack him. Drew's going to attack Seth. Sammy's going to attack Drew, and then Kevin Owens attacks Sammy. It all falls to pieces.
Cody Rhodes returns.
Oh my God. Right, best part of the show.
Oh my God.
Final Testaments here.
Yeah.
Miz is there. He's like, we've done, aren't we? Like, join me here. You're really scary guys. But we beat the Wyatt Six. Thanks very much. I'm off. Karen Cross walks in. Sidge, what did he say? Where you going?
Where are you going?
The best.
I love him so much.
good, isn't he?
He's like, it's not over. He said, it's not over until I've say it's over. After what they did to Scarlett and Paul Ellering. He says, I want you to go and get a match with the guy who kidnapped you. Dexter,
Like a little bit of continuity there.
I tell you what, the bit like the thing, like sometimes you think, are they listening? Because they're absolutely class. If they've got this good part, maybe they've got this good taste with the podcast. What have we ragged on about them is forever is his Wikipedia deal. And Karen Cross, like, you've won 22 titles.
he says, he said, go and get yourself a match with the guy who kidnapped you. Dexter Loomis. Paul Ellering's like, I think you'll find you owe me. I've saved you twice. Cross says, hey, you're the Miz. You've won 22 titles in your career. And he leaves, and like you alluded to earlier, he takes 3 steps. And I think it was Rezar says, think you can take Loomis? Cross like, don't know. But I want to keep testing the Wyatts. And also, when you make a deal with the devil, you don't run out on him. And then he leered at Paul Ellering.
Where are you going?
I love him. I want him to win the world title next year.
I love him.
Ellering's gimmicked up his beard with something, and it looks like food. It just looks like he's got some catering in his beard.
Might have.
Yeah, and why not?
And he knows it's perfect. Doesn't need
Karen
it,
Cross
does it?
It's just so great.
So funny.
I love him so
Thing
much.
is,
man.
And we don't have to watch the match between Miz and
I
Dexter
know,
Loomis.
I know,
Dexter
I know.
Loomis, the best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds.
What I don't get, Karen Cross remains a mystery wrapped in enigma, right? Because the one person,
He sucks, but he's funny.
right? Yes, but the one person that
Riddle
saw something in him is Triple H.
I know.
And he has 0 pattern.
Yeah.
So what did he think he was a good wrestler? It's like
You must
that's
have.
not what's good
You
about
must
him,
with
mate.
that
Like
push.
the,
With that push, you must have.
Yeah.
No, I reckon Karrion Kross, he's a charmer. You imagine, like, you see him, you chat to him, he's probably he busts out his Ventura for you. You're probably thinking, right, okay, well, clearly you've got so many qualities that you associate with the star. Fit as hell, handsome as all hell.
Yeah.
You're huge, you're jacked, and you're really funny, and you've got, like, amiable charm. I'll put you on TV for 5 years. In 5 years, I've probably got to find something that you can do, and he bloody well has.
is it like when Zayn and Owens got over in Vince McMahon's WWE when you say game in the system? Is Karen Cross game in this? It's a different system. And
Yeah.
he's the type of wrestler
Yeah.
that games it. Yeah. I love him.
But obviously, mentions of Final Testament.
He is very intimidating and scary.
White 6 can only lead us to one place, and that's this week's Raw Riddle.
Oh, God, I really need a piss.
Thank God this is over.
We haven't got a new feature yet, mate.
He of the SmackDown Photoshop has pitched something that maybe I'll bring to your attention. But if you've got any other ideas...
Yeah, we're desperate.
Adam.Wilbourn at WhatCulture.com. What can replace the Raw Riddle in 2024? I gave you this yesterday and do it now.
Still have to be haunted.
It does not necessarily have to be haunted.
Has to line up with one existing button, but it doesn't have to be.
We don't do bits on this podcast, so feel free to suggest anything. The person who makes this has no need of it. The person who buys it has no use of it. And the person who uses it can neither see nor feel it. What is it?
I think you said this yesterday.
Is it a casket?
We've had it before, is it? Yeah,
Is it
like
a
a casket
coffin?
or a coffin or something.
Bingo!
Done that one.
It's because this feature's dead. That's why I picked it.
Nice.
Right, and that's the last ever Raw Riddle.
Well, not yet, mate. We don't know. I get desperate.
Women's IC tournament first round. It was a triple threat match, this actually. It was Caden Carter, Raquel Rodriguez, and Zoe Stark of the PFC.
Can I shock you? I didn't actually hate this.
I didn't.
There was an odd bit of flair and action where I thought, this isn't that bad, this.
I thought it was going to, Raquel's the big powerful one, and Caden can fly around, and Zoe Stark's
Zoe
sneaky.
Stark's really good at wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what was funny though. And I think he's brilliant. What addition to this company he's been, Joe Tessitore. And we talked about this when he very first started, and he's got several different
Pressure
levels
core.
his voice goes to, because he's called enough sport in his time that he knows when it's time to really
You Tessitore.
But there was
that soft action sportscaster.
I think it might have been the Bronson Reed 6 tsunamis, but there was a segment like that where you're just so used to at this point, like if you're more than into Jim Ross, Michael, doesn't matter who you are, you're more than entitled to just go off the deep end in selling your shock. And he's like, Seth Rollins could be seriously injured or whatever. Ramp it up if you want, mate. Yeah. Him trying to lower himself again to get back up, as every good commentator should, for I think it was Caden Carter's entrance. So he's at his absolute sort of lowest energy. Caden Carter here tonight in action, and it's like the rodents were getting quite close to those Yeet t-shirts, and Caden Carter seems to react to the lack of reaction. She comes out, does the big dance stuff, and Joe Testa says, "Yep, there's Caden Carter." It's almost like he was sort of angry with her for what time am I watching this? Yeah, surprise hit of a match.
Early on, it takes to a break. Caden Carter hits a big dive onto everyone. When we come back, Stark returns the favour, coming off the top rope to the outside.
That was good. She just screamed down it was something like, "I'm a great wrestler!"
Yeah. Like I said, it's the power game for Raquel. She's just chucking them both around. At one point, she sort of pounced Zoe Stark over the top. In the end, though, she sets up Carter for a Tejana bomb. But Stark drops them both with a missile drop kick, knocks Rodriguez out the ring, and Stark sort of gives Caden Carter a Z360.
She completely botches the finish. But the happier news is at the body of the match, there was some decent interplay where you think Caden Carter's going out the ring, not just back inside to kick Raquel Rodriguez in the face, and then Stark's flipping about the place, and all of 95% of her stuff looks really good. I was just like, I can't believe I'm not that bored. I cannot believe I'm not that bored watching this, me. That's the thought entered my head this morning.
You merge everything but the finish from this match with the US title match at Saturday night's main event. Great match, all in all. Yeah. Because everything else, dreadful at Saturday night's main event for that women's US title match. But the finish was class. Yeah, unfortunate.
This is the kind of thing he's going to bring up every month for 5 years and not remember it. Remember the finish of that? Yeah, Wilbourn, yeah.
I mean, we all remember how great the IC title tournament was. Who could forget? Let's not talk anymore about the layout of the show when I say that this was, I thought, the best match on Raw.
Yeah, it was,
So she'll face Dakota Kai in the next round. There's Alpha Academy, new commercial. R-Truth congratulates them, calls Pete Dunne Butch. Pete Dunne comes in. I don't care about this whatsoever. Apart from when Truth says, "Butch, please." That was funny.
No, it wasn't. I just want to
sorry.
I'm on record to say that Butch, please, is not funny, mate.
Okay, fair. Dunn gets in his face. Otis steps between them. They both leave. In comes American-made Chad Gable leading them, of course. Calls them a clown show. Says they've ruined what used to be the Alpha Academy. Their commercial's pathetic. He runs them all down. Otis tells them to shut up. And Gable says it's time to kill his darlings, and he's going to start with Tozawa next week.
I kind of I didn't literally shudder, but I sort of felt a reaction similar to a shudder when I watched this, because I was like, wait a minute, why is WWE crap? Like, all of this. Like, I don't feel that anymore, and that feels great every week. And this was, all of it was crap. Like, oh, well done, you've overlapped 2 crap storylines. Like, this is the opposite of what most of your creative is. Genuinely, it was like all of the bad.
Crap storylines. So you got the Otis Gable. Why are they back in suits?
Why are they back in suits? Why are they back facing each other? Why does Gable care again all of a sudden? Like, off the back of a stupid advert.
Cornbrain, this one.
Stable,
We're still doing this, are we? All right.
Let's fold in the Butch and R-Truth stuff that was never good ever. No. Like, that existed. If that had existed for one thing, and it was to follow when the New Day turned on Big E, you would have been like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
And they didn't even do that. Do you remember? It was like Dominic and Gunther, I think it was. Like, they should have sent Butch and Pete Dunne out there, because that's trash. I honestly, I was like watching this being like, WWE's never this bad anymore. And here it all is.
No, half SmackDown's cold as ice.
All of Raw's bad.
It is, though. It's really cold.
All of Raw's bad. Like, collaborating together for
5 minutes of bad Raw.
Terrible segment.
Why are they in suits, though? Like, didn't they reinvent them as, like, right, dumb jock, 80s tinged, action-y look? It wasn't great, but better than suits, and they're back in suits.
Like,
they've had a nightmare with Chad Gable.
A total failure. This stable in particular, a total failure.
New Day is still trying to find a place to get changed, but we barely get to hear from them when we see the PFC have taken out Kairi Sane with a flight case or whatever it is. They've trapped her arm.
Aye.
More bad. So
that's Kairi was going to be in the Intercontinental title 3-way next week.
Oh, God, yeah.
So they'll probably have she can sell an injury off the back of that now, can't she?
Oh, God. I think Natalia's in that goddamn match. Jesus Christ.
And the bad keeps going.
Yeah. Thank God I ain't got to watch that next week. Right.
One wrestling. Nope, not watching.
I'm out.
Like, they're just like January 6th. Oh, there's like, it's a 3-hour show again. There's loads and loads of stuff, and then also in action, Natalia. Well, I guess I'll watch Amazon Prime instead. I'll watch Red One again. Thank you.
There was a red logo, a bit like a 0, flashed up on the screen. What could this be teasing?
Well, it was wrong because it was no 0. It was like 0 and then crossed out. Isn't it like the zeros are important because Penta's got no fear?
Yeah, it's Penta.
Yeah, it's Penta, mate. So.
Good to know. Right,
I actually thought this is like, when I first saw it, and I was like, oh yeah, 0, it's going to be fine. But my very first thought was, when you've got like the O, the letter O with the line through it. I think it's like a Scandinavian O, but like you see it sometimes on keyboards and that.
Like Odegaard or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I don't want Penta Oscuro. Thank you. Like, he was the worst Penta.
Is that? I wonder if he's got the trademark on that.
Yeah, because there's always been that thing with Penta and what he gets to use and not. I'm quite hyped for this,
It'd be great in WWE. I said this from as soon as the rumours started.
Yeah, you did
AEW booking kind of stopped me being excited about a Penta singles run, but I used to always kind of root for it, and it just would never materialise, and I gave up. And I don't love the situation Rey Fenix has found himself in, but if that's created this little window where he gets a singles run first, I kind of want to look at that. I want to see what we can get out of that before they're inevitably reunited.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of stars that WCPW made, the War Raiders were in the main event challenging for the tag titles.
He came to WCPW after lighting up the other independents because his name value had already been...
Will Ospreay, Carl Fletcher,
Shut up.
Cody Rhodes. We found all of them. Just discovered them and put them out there for fans to see.
We found stars in a hopeless place.
Kurt Angle. Try not to mention some of the other people on the roster. Right, Ivar...
The rest of them.
Yeah.
Oh, goddamn scene.
It was there was Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry.
Local hero.
Mike
Kirby. So there's 2 names.
Something's occurred, I believe, in the Joe Hendry universe. You see, I think he's getting a TNA title match.
Yeah.
He's getting his rematch before the Rumble. WWE want the champion in the Rumble, don't they?
Yeah.
Wearing that belt into the Rumble.
Looking at both. Dolph Ziggler comes back.
Main event time. I'm desperate for a piss here.
War Raiders, Finn Balor, JD McDonough for the World Tag Team titles. Ivar and JD starts off and doesn't go well for Paul McDonough. Eric body slams Ivar onto JD to take us to a break. When we come back, they're still in control. Look at the size of them. But JD McDonough uses Ivar's beard to yank him over the top rope when Balor distracts the referee to allow the heels to take over. Ivar comes back with that handspring double back elbow, which pops the crowd. This is a bit, I was like, there's a lot of noise for this match. Tags in Eric. Balor trips him from the outside the ring, though, and they team up, do Street Trash, the Judgment Day, to send Eric into the steel steps, taking us to another break When we come back, they're working over Eric until he finally gets over to Ivar for the hot tag, who hits Balor with a seated senton, a cartwheel kick to JD McDonough. There's also a world's strongest slam from Ivar to McDonough off the second rope for a nice 2 count. They hit that pop-up power slam combo, but Balor breaks up the cover. They go for War Machine, but Balor pulls down the top rope and Ivar spills out. So Balor gives Eric a sling blade and a drop kick. McDonough hits a moonsault. Balor hits a coup de grace, but Ivar slides in the last second to break up that. So Balor says, get a chair. And McDonough goes and gets a chair, brings that in the ring. The ref's like, you can't do that. It's a disqualification. Distracts the ref. Balor goes to get another chair from ringside. Goes to pull it. Oh, this must be stuck on something. Turns around. Damian Priest is on a huge jab. He pulls Balor into the barricades. Balor rolls back in, and Eric and Ivar finish him off with War Machine. 1, 2, 3. They are your new tag team champions. Big pyro display to close out the show.
There was a few comments last week, I think in the YouTube comments, the podcast we recorded, or maybe on Twitter, when we were all kind of in agreement that, Finn Balor versus Gunther. Finn's just not really that guy anymore, and how much was he ever, and all that kind of thing. And he's one of them wrestlers for me where, and we would have had this ourselves reading Dave Meltzer or Finn Martin as younger fans, or whoever was like influencing you at the time. There are certain wrestlers that just get this like pass, and I'm not being cruel to them, but just like good wrestler, generic good wrestler. That's probably the busiest box when you're boxing off all the wrestlers. Generic good wrestler. It's never been busier, but that's why there's so few greats, and then the genius tier and whatever. This was like 4 of those good wrestlers, and that's why I would describe this as an over-delivery. Like, this did get hot, and people really did come up for the Damian Priest reveal, and I absolutely loved. Like, I was invested when Finn Balor pulled the rope down to stop the first attempt at the War Machine. It was maybe how they shot it, but I was like, oh, you bastard, you little bastard.
Yeah.
And like, it's my biggest criticism now of matches where like the match starts and they're all doing good wrestling moves, and it's like, yeah, but like these good wrestling moves could exist in any tag match. When am I going to feel like I'm watching the War Raiders versus the Judgment Day here? And then by the end I was. And on it, like this was in that sense an over delivery, but I felt like I had to qualify it as that because it almost feels like you're being patronising or nasty to the wrestlers, and I'm not. It's just like we have kind of reached this period in wrestling where like the good wrestler box overflows, and some of it becomes indistinguishable from the next match you watch and the last match you watch, and they found a way out of that in like the last sort of 2 or 3 minutes of that, and I was quite impressed on those terms.
It got hot. There's one kind of, is it Ivar who does the cartwheel into the kick? It was weird because like he actually hit him with the cartwheel. He's like, what do I do now? It's like, hit him, dickhead. Other than that flub, it got hot. They basically did a one-night success story after weeks of just, oh God, this is pretty turgid. It's a manipulative work, this wrestling game, and they manipulated the crowd, and B+.
No, I manipulated myself to issue to close out the show.
No, you didn't. You didn't come. You did
let us
not
know your
come.
thoughts on Raw.
Imagine that. What do you think of the Raw main event? Well, I wanked. Love it so much I wanked.
No, to be honest, I'm saving that for tonight because later on today we've got the NXT preview. But let us know your thoughts on Raw in the comments or on X at WhatCulture WWE. Watch, they can follow all 3 of us. Follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilbourn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. And make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. NXT preview coming your way later on today. Where is NXT?
It's in Lowell.
It's in Lowell.
The Memorial Auditorium.
He's going to lose a smile, so
damn.
that's a preview, basically. Stick around for Stacks, though.
But for now, this has been the Raw review. My thanks to Hamflett Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.